Welcome traders, my name is Adam Harris, Chief Market Analyst. So let's have a look at what's going on in the economic calendar. This is for the week commencing Monday, the 15th of July. So we're hurtling towards this. We're now officially in the second half of 2024. So first of all, having a look at the economic calendar, yes, we have Marine Day on the Monday, which is basically when Japan gives tribute to their maritime economy as well, and gives tribute to the bounty that the ocean provides them with, which I thought was quite interesting. Then we have really what I want to focus on. As I said, the US economy is on fire, meaning it's a good thing. It's very healthy, it's very strong, it's likely to be that way for a while. So there's nothing really super exciting about that. They've got a weaker dollar, but within the bigger scheme of things, it's not that weak. But within the shorter term, medium term, we've got a weaker dollar, but it is due for a bit of strengthening. We'll have a look at the charts in the meantime. I'm looking at UK news. I want to have a look at CPI data coming out of the UK and Europe. We'll see how that is expected to perform. Average earnings as well would be of interest to me. Definitely the ECB interest rate decision. Want to see what the story is going to be there with regards. It's really now about inflation. So what's happening with regards to inflation? We still have the tail end of that happening. With, as a result of COVID. And so, is it coming up under control? The US is leading the control of inflation, out of the G7, in fact, out of the G9. It's far ahead of everyone else, bringing that inflation under control. But I want to see what happens with the UK and with Europe. Don't forget, of course, the UK also still struggling to overcome the consequences and the repercussions of Brexit. So all kinds of other issues. But I would say this, the UK economy is starting to look very good. The pound is particularly strong. If we can get that inflation under control as well. And let's then, what was I going to say here? So on Friday, I want to have a look at GBP sales. I want to see for the UK core retail sales, CPI data, retail sales, and see how that is looking. Right, let's go on and have a look at what's going on in the charts. Okay, so we have the VIX. Again, VIX operating at low levels, so minimal volatility in the markets. Then we have the dollar index. You can see here coming back down. It's still testing effectively this area where there was a rejection in June, so still potentially testing that level of support. We'll see how that goes. For now, we've got a lower high. We do not have a lower low. I think it's reasonable to expect there's a fair possibility the dollar will continue to weaken to the test this low. Then we'll see if it holds. But this area, in fact, I'm going to add in, I'm just going to draw in a little bit of a boundary into this area to see if we potentially find support. I'm not saying we will. I'm saying we need to really see if that's going to be the case. Anywhere in this area, it has done this in the past. We could find that it rejects it. We'll see. If we go have a look at euro dollar, you can see euro dollar is peaking through that level of resistance on the weekly, but it hasn't necessarily, it's closed outside of that. I would prefer a close above this high. We've got that downward sloping trend line. We've got higher lows over here. We've got an upward sloping trend line here. So we are forming that sort of triangle pattern. Let me draw the other one in. So you can see if we kind of just go through this, we've got a series of these kind of very, very faint for you guys. I hope you can see this on the video. And we're going to see if it does subsequently break up to the upside, if it does. So there's a possibility if that's ultimately going to be the case, which means we'd likely get a weaker US dollar. The sterling, on the other hand, so the pound has clearly broken to the upside. You can see here on the monthly, we've got a high, low, high, high. So we're now officially in an uptrend on the monthly. We've also broken above zero on the MACD. We're trending higher on the MACD, which means the pound is actually incredibly strong. So this week, what am I looking for? I'll be looking for a little bit of a retracement. Could it change direction? Could it come all the way back down? We could see if that's going to be the case. But this week, I would be looking for pullbacks, and we'll see how that's going to go. That means the pound is just substantially stronger than the euro right now. We've got Aussie dollar against the US dollar. So we've got a very nice strong move to the upside there. Price heading up towards the highs there. So we've got a weaker dollar, stronger Australian dollar. Kiwi dollar, US dollar is struggling a little bit. It is range bound at the moment. Just look at it on the weekly. Just look how it's battling through that resistance level, but it's got buy levels here. So it's likely to break out to the upside. There's like a 60-40 chance it'll break out to the upside when it does. I'm not sure if that'll be this week, but I'm saying more the direction. Dollar yen having a nice strong correction after a little bit of a double top there. It's a weekly retracement. We'll see what's going to be the case here. We know the Bank of Japan wants to intervene. They want to turn this around. We'll see if that's going to be the case. It's starting to, we can see that the cycles here on the weekly are relatively consistent. So we'll see what happens this week. Could we find a bit of a turnaround, get a stronger dollar, which will boost it back up? We'll see if that's going to be the case. Dollar Swissy battling in general. It has broken down out of this range to the upside, produced a rejection candle, and then broken to the downside. So a lot of the time that would imply a continuation to the downside, but it's just not looking very committed right now. Dollar CAD, still range bound, okay, not offering a lot. Can you imagine going all the way back to April, just absolutely nothing happening with dollar CAD? Makes it incredibly tricky to trade. A very quick look at some of the currency pairs. So the yen pairs, for example, going through the yen pairs, those trends are still looking good. We've got pullback here, so there might still be some potential buy opportunities on these yen crosses this week. So Monday, Tuesday, looking for buying entry opportunities onto the daily trend. We'll see. And the concern is this. My concern here is that we are starting a bit of a weekly retracement, and therefore there might be a failed attempt to move into an uptrend on the daily, which then converts back into a downtrend, and it becomes a weekly retracement. That's my real concern. A lot of the charts look really good. They could be pulling back, getting ready to do another move up, but that could ultimately turn into a weekly retracement. So we've got a swing high here on the weekly. That's my real concern with those. Next up are the Swissy pairs. The Swissy pairs are, to me, still looking good. Overall, this is an area I'm looking for dollar Swissy to turn around. If we go have a look at Euro Swissy, Euro Swissy has continued its move to the upside. So I've been talking about Swissy pairs looking more and more bullish. They are continuing to do that. I got the turnaround where I was looking for here. Pound Swissy is a ridiculous one. Pound Swissy has been a nice, decent trade this week. Aussie Swissy also not looking that bad. We've got Kiwi Swissy also not looking that bad. It hasn't taken off yet. I look for an entry above the high of this break and a retest. Nice bullish candle. Stop loss below the low and a break above the high. There was also a second entry above the high of this candle. Stop loss below the low here. So any of those that we break through, it'll subsequently trigger me in on those. So those are the nicest trends in terms of currency crosses are the Swissy pairs and some of the yen pairs, but the yen pairs carry that risk. Okay, so let's have a look at gold. Gold continues to push back up to the top of the range. So don't forget, it is currently range bound. So let me just frame that range so that we can see it. And we can see it's pretty obvious there. So we are at the top of the range. Will that break out? A weaker dollar will help it do that. But if we get a stronger dollar that week, we could find it coming back into the range. So let's see. This is where there's some contradiction here, guys. So here we've got this exhaustion occurring on the monthly. Lots of exhaustion there after a solid breakout. Nice little bit of indecision that it continues up. We could get a rejection. What should actually happen here is we should get a bit of a retest in this area before continuing up, especially after this. But it looks as though it really doesn't want to quit just yet. But we're also not in the clear. So the monthly, I beg your pardon, is showing the potential for a correction to the downside. But when we look at the weekly is showing a consolidation. And a consolidation is a really great way for a market to take a breather and then continue up. So the weekly in isolation is actually making a case for gold to break out and resume its move to the upside. But the monthly is looking as though gold really does need to consider taking a bit of a break, coming down and having a bit of a correction before continuing. So very interesting to me that both of those are giving such contradictory pictures. Silver, so let me move my silver up. Don't know why it is where it is. Okay, so it's going to be like that, I guess. So silver also continuing, but it's battling here with these highs. Okay, you can see on the monthly, really battling with that strong level of resistance. So moving on to natural gas. Natural gas, I was looking for a really nice strong push off this one, a really nice strong one. We're still getting more and more green bars in here, but no real push back on that yet. So let's move on. Let's have a look at light crude. So light crude is now starting to breach the upper part of that downward sloping trend line. So it's a little bit more bearish than bullish. When you look at it from a monthly perspective, that actually kind of makes sense. Very nice, strong bullish engulfing candle from June. So it is that little bit more bullish, but it's still stuck within this. It's congested effectively, and we'll see. However, I would say it's leaning 55-45 bullish. Just not great for making money in terms of trading opportunities. And again, I would also say that the long-term viability for crude oil as an energy commodity is definitely in question. There's no doubt about it. We're trying to move away from it. Laws are coming into place to get us to move away from it over time, to phase it out. Remember that it ultimately replaced whale oil, which was the original fuel we used to use to light our street lamps and, to give us light at night and fires and so on and so forth. And then we discovered fossil fuels, and now this is kind of where. So eventually we appear to be phasing that out. I would say that the EV market is heating up. Certainly the hybrid market is. And if people could get the same car they have today and it's an electric version with the infrastructure in place at the same price, I think people would switch to it. So in other words, it has to be, you have to remove the barriers. This is what Apple does really well. Remove the barriers that would cause people to hesitate switching from, petrol or diesel to electric. You've got to remove those barriers, and they're working very hard to do that. Okay, so I think in the long run, I think it's questionable whether fossil fuels, and also just think about all the wars that we've had over crude oil that have started over the decades, that would potentially really help reduce that kind of friction. So anyway, so West Texas as well, very much the same, starting to break up through that downward sloping trend line, but not really offering any superb trading opportunities. Not convinced of that. Let's move on to the global indices. So global indices continue, especially with the Dow, continues to form this ascending triangle potential breakout. That looks really good statistically and probability wise. It's as close to, hear me out, as close to a sure thing as you get. It's not guaranteed, but it is an 80 to 90% likelihood of breaking out to the upside. We have got some bearish divergence here. Indices, this is again, it's a consolidation. Markets taking a bit of a breather. If it breaks below these lows before it does that, that would not be a good sign. We could still have a failed breakout. Actually, even as I'm saying this, I'm thinking I shouldn't really commit to something like that. My thinking is more that the markets tend to go up more than they do anything else, especially the US indices. But this is a bullish breakout pattern forming. We'll see if it turns into a failed breakout. S&P continues to look good. I really want to see some pullbacks here. We still haven't really had any to my satisfaction, but any kind of pullbacks into the moving averages. The monthly doesn't look so bad. The weekly looks okay to me, but the daily does need those pullbacks. This could ultimately turn out to be a bit of a buy opportunity over here. So I'll just tag that. We've got the NASDAQ as well. There we go. Another one that could be a potential buy opportunity over here as well. Then we've got the Russell. So overall, really nice and strong. There we go. Now look at this. So the Russell's been stuck within this range for a while. It appears to have come back, retested it, and broken out. So that looks very good. It's going to break up through this level of resistance, but ladies and gentlemen, that is a really good sign. So the Russell 2000 potentially now starting to join the rest of the ranks. Actually, while we're on that, I need to show you Hong Kong. Hong Kong might have provided a buy setup, and I want to talk you guys through that. So let me do these, and then I'll come back to that one. So the FTSE pulling back into this area. I've highlighted this area. These all look good. These all look like multiple buy opportunities for me. So they look like they're setting up to go long. Again, I would have loved to pull back into this area. It's come back. It's touched the old highs. I would have loved a retest of this before we go longer, but it does look as though it kind of is trying to do that turnaround now. Then we have the DAX. The DAX taken off, looks good, back up at the all-time highs. I think it's going to break through that, looks really good so far. We could see that continue to go. We've got the ASX, which also looks beautiful. There's your triangle breakout to the upside. Very nice. Beautiful, man. That's ASX out of Australia. We've got the neck high. So let's have a look. Okay, so here it breaks up, bangs its head up against this area, which we've highlighted. I think it's likely to attempt to continue up again. Even if we're going to pull back into these areas, I think it's likely to continue up. It's not overextended there. The weekly's just taken off. We look okay. Come back to test the old highs. We should be okay on that one. It should do a small pullback and then potentially continue up. So let me go find that HK1, and then I want to talk to you about that as a potential buy setup. Okay, so on the investing.com platform, I'm going to take you through this. I don't have that symbol on PROREALTIME. I don't have it, so I'm going to take you through it on investing.com platform. And basically, I'm going to take you through this trade idea if any of you are interested. Why am I doing this when I don't normally do this? I'm doing it because I'm doing it mainly because these types of setups, this is important. Both China's index as well as the Hang Seng are now starting to turn bullish. They've been the most bearish of the bunch. They've now started to turn bullish. So in other words, they are the laggers. That's why I'm talking about this. Because when the laggers, like the Russell 2000 breaking out today and HK also starting to turn bullish, just reaffirms the bull market. So first of all, the weekly time frame is the most important time frame here. This is the one you really need to be paying attention to. Not really sure what's going on with my MACD. Let's just quickly do this to fix it. There we go. And let's talk about why this is a very, very good sign. So first of all, there's some proprietary knowledge here at play, but we have price above the 50-period moving average on the weekly. That is a bullish starting point. We have an uptrend. We have an uptrend on the weekly. That is a bullish start point. We have the MACD above 0. So let me just quickly edit this so you can see what those coordinates are. Let's just make that 0. And why didn't it do that? Hold on a second. Okay, so for the purposes of this, I put in a level as close to 0 here as I can. Price MACD is operating above that. But here's where it gets really powerful. This is where it gets really powerful. We have effectively a double bottom here. I'll show it to you in a moment. We have this bullish divergence. This is very important. We have bullish divergence over here on the MACD. It's above zero. We don't have a high low, high yet, but we do have an uptrend here, matching an uptrend there. When we go to the monthly, we actually have a double bottom with bullish divergence, which is also a good sign. When we go back to that weekly, we get this bullish divergence and a shift in trend, but we get price pulling back, coming back down and testing the 50 period of support. So this is what it often does. Breaks up above it, comes back, tests it for support, produces a bullish engulfing candle. So I've listed like 10 things so far that are incredibly strong. And we have the 10 and 20 switching into bullish formations. Another 20 is above that. If I had the 10, we'd have the 10 above that. So we'd have bullish order angle separation of 50, 20, and 10. These are bullish signals across the board. And therefore, for me, this is subsequently a buy signal for me personally. So again, for each of you, you need to manage your risk appropriately. You need to not take this as not financial advice. This is me, kind of my personal analysis and where I do it. I like this as a potential target. This is a weekly chart, so this could take a very long time to get there. It could take a couple of months. I'll be revisiting it when we do these sessions, obviously, but looking really good. And so in particular, one of the things that I like, let me just grab this as a signal, is this particular bullish candle over here looking very, very good. So that one, entry above the high, stop loss below the low here, and then targeting, taking partial profits up to this level. There'll likely be pullbacks, and if there's a pullback, there'll likely be a re-entry opportunity or scaling in opportunity. And this one looks very good. So that is on my watch list, and I really like the look of that. It's got everything going for it. Nothing in life is guaranteed, but as setups go, this has got it has got every single box ticked. Okay, so I thought I'd walk you through that. Let's go back to the charts and carry on. Okay, so we'll get into the equities of interest. I've got Anheuser-Busch producing those higher lows, leading into a potential breakout to the upside. MACD floating with that zero line, looking good. We've got Apple. Apple just due for a bit of a correction. Still looks good though. A little bit overextended on the weekly. Looks fine on the monthly. Looking okay. Amazon pulling back. So for me, I like the idea. Yes, if Amazon could come back and retest it, so it's a break and a retest, great. But I don't expect it to. Actually, I'm saying there's a very real possibility that it is going to work its way away from here. But yeah, I would pay some attention to that resistance level. We'll have to see how that goes. Okay, we've got AT&T has taken it. I obviously marked that, I'm guessing, last week. And there we go. That was a nice move. Beautiful pullback, a little bit overextended here, but overall still looking good. And those are all bullish, nice little bullish signals there as well. ARK, the greatest wealth destroyer of our generation. So let's see, starting to work its way up to the top of that range, we'll see. So again, I mean, if even the Seng and all those are starting to catch on that there's a bull market, it's possible that ARK is going to be able to work its way there. ASML continues to tick higher. This is a bit frustrating. So in other words, what's happening here is it's becoming a little bit exhausted. Look at all those wicks and a pullback and it continues up and indecision. It's battling, but it's still bullish. It just doesn't have the same buying enthusiasm that, for example, NVIDIA does. Glencore, still looking good. It's got a breakout, but this is a great setup. There we go. Retraced, bullish candle breakup. Could potentially do exactly what we've seen with the Russell 2000. Tesco, beautiful. There we go. Boom. Straightforward trade. We spoke about this last week. High, low, straight up. No problem there. We've got Amex. Inside bullish candle. There it goes. Looking very nice. Still looks good. Overall, still looks really good. No issue with that. Berkshire Hathaway. Beautiful breakout last week of this triangle. There you go, into its danger zone. So let's talk about this in a little bit more detail. We back up against this resistance area, this overall danger zone, but man, that's a really nice breakout. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to refine this a little bit. I'm going to do this, just kind of bring it down to about that. So I think that if we can break through that, we should be good. But that is a beautiful breakout to the consolidation. I think it's likely to continue. So very happy with that. We got Coca-Cola, nice little retest. It's going to keep trickling up. It's not bad. That looks really good as a potential for, we've got some bearish divergence here. So what's happening is it's slowing down, might want to have a bit of a correction, but it's also not really moving on this side. So it might just do a slow move and then break out that way. BP coming back down. This is the same with crude oil, but it is still holding up. I did mark this as a possible triangular breakout to the upside. We'll see if that's going to be the case. We need to see if it breaks below these lows first. ExxonMobil still holding. In other words, Exxon are doing better than BP. They produced a bullish candle and a higher low here. So they're going to try to move higher this coming week. Estee Lauder I introduced last week because it was basically, it was a bad stock selection for me personally, not a recommendation. I do not recommend stocks. It's not my thing. I don't really recommend stuff. I talk about trade ideas. This always had a really good track record, and it's one of the rare losers in a portfolio. Very rare. Should have done well. So I'm watching it. I've said to you guys that this is the last chance it has to break high. If it doesn't double bottom and reverse here with some bullish divergence, then it's not going to be able to do it. There is the bullish divergence here. Let's see if that holds up. But nothing this week. General Motors continues to push high. It looks really good. The weekly is a very good chart to watch. I know most people watch the daily, but if somebody said to you, you've got to pick one or the other, the weekly wins hands down. Weekly would win over the daily anytime. Here we've got that bearish divergence. It continues. We've got more exhaustion this week. So JP Morgan is struggling a little bit. We're likely to see it go sideways for a bit. I would expect this to start to go sideways for a bit. Invesco is still looking good. It has pulled back. There is a bit of a green candle here. I'm a little bit concerned that it is running out of steam. It might need to do a bit of a retracement on the weekly. Adidas, beautiful. There's that really strong breakout candle. Last week we broke below that, but it's still gone. This whole level is highlighted as a level of support. And there you go. Break above the 50 period, retesting it for support. My expectation is that Adidas is going to take off from here. Meta. Meta is battling a little bit in this area. Okay, you can see, look at it on the monthly, battling a little bit there. I think it's probably likely to consolidate before moving higher. I would put it now as more neutral than pure bullish. Morgan Stanley looks fine, looking really good, had a good week. Well done. Nvidia also stumbling a little bit. So very similar to ASML and a few of the others. Did I say ASML? Is that correct? Where it's battling a little bit. Oh, these ones. I did say that. That's correct. Netflix, nice correction, guys. Nice little correction. Stumbling a little bit where it is here. Let's see if we get a bullish candle this coming week. Will we get that? We're going to have to see, but it's not a bad idea if it is. But it is stumbling. It's starting to lose a little bit of speed. We've got bearish divergence here. We could find that Netflix comes back down here to test that level again. PayPal trying to stay, struggling, fighting for its life in the bottom of the box, trying to push its way back up. We've got Spotify also stumbling, very similar to Netflix. Stumbling here, stumbling here. I wanted to find this statistic somewhere that showed that America's savings have now been depleted. So during COVID, people saved up money. They weren't spending as much, they weren't traveling, they weren't doing all these things, and they accumulated these savings. And what happened was that inflation was corporate greed reacting to that, knowing that people have savings, squeezing them for that. So in other words, upping the prices, and people spending it because they had the savings. And now they've depleted those savings, and this is why in the last few months you've seen corporates start to drop their prices because they realize now they've pretty much mined that hole pretty much dry, and that's kind of the case. And it makes sense. That's not something I don't think of as a conspiracy theory. It actually does make sense. And so it's very likely that we're going to see things, subscriptions, such as I know that obviously New York Times have wiped out a lot of this subscription base the last week of a lot of the misinformation and disinformation and just bizarre stuff in the big global media over the last couple of weeks. Absolutely bizarre. What is known as journalistic malpractice. Just irresponsible stuff, really ridiculous. And so people have decided to start cutting back on their subscriptions. It's possible that with Spotify and Netflix, who have very similar chart structures here, that could be the case. We could see them starting to cut back. We know savings are starting to take a hit. We know that some people are definitely cutting back on certain subscriptions because they're not happy with the service. Maybe they've also started looking at a few other things. Spider, looking really good. Nice breakout to the upside, so that looks really good. FedEx, also big boom, but also holding, treading water where it is, also looks okay. Let's have a look at Tesla. Tesla this week, sorry, let me just move it this week. So it did manage to do that full-on move post head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders, and didn't really do anything here. So still battling with this level. What I did last week is I said it's neutral bullish as opposed to strictly bullish, neutral bullish. In order for it to be bullish, it would have to come back down, produce a higher low, and then come back and break up through that high. That would be a confirmed shift back into let's call it a bull market for Tesla. It hasn't got there yet. It's battling with resistance. Now we have to see what it's going to do. So I still am neutral bullish as opposed to strictly that. And we'll see how that goes. Vanguard, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It doesn't get much more pedigree than that, does it? Walt Disney, so Walt Disney, I've given it this area. It keeps not turning around. You can see the candles are getting smaller. So it is putting on the brakes. It is slowing down. We need to see a nice boost to the upside. It's still in this area. It still qualifies. Anywhere in this area, if it turns around, it still qualifies. We're not there yet. It is starting to show signs of slowing around, but it hasn't produced a bullish signal yet. So this would be going from bearish to neutral bearish. Then it would have to go to neutral, then neutral bullish or bullish, so to speak. That's my terminology, by the way, just using that. Let's look at bonds. So you can see here bonds are starting to climb. US 10-year T-note, nice uptrend on the weekly. We can see it starting to turn around. That all looking interesting to me. The Eurobond also not as bullish now. It was more bullish than the US bonds. It's not as bullish now. It looks fine. Nothing amazing there. Let's look at cryptos. Let's wrap up on cryptos. So again, I highlighted this area as an acceptable area. Anywhere here from the top of the box to the bottom of the box for this to turn around. It appears to have had a nice stronger week, maybe hanging on by its toenails in the bottom of the range. We'll see if that's going to be the case. What it has to do now, let's do this as a fun exercise. It has to break this downward sloping trend line. And if it starts to do that, and especially if it can be back up above this level, 60,000, then we can start to see a turnaround. Okay, we've got Ethereum also looking good. Very nice. Look at this. I've even marked these boxes. Beautiful. So in other words, what's happening now? It was given a chance to turn around in this area. It's trying to turn around in this area. I would recommend you go back and just see what I said about that last week. Okay, Binance also looking good. So basically, crypto's had a decent week this week. Solana is trying to turn around. Here I put in a green bar because I wanted to see it happen. It's holding, but it hasn't produced, let's call it a momentum bar. It hasn't produced that. And Cardano even having a semi-decent week there on this green bar level. So it's also a last chance. That's a nice bullish candle. Also a bit of a last chance for that. So let's summarize here. Some really good opportunities in the mixed results for the dollar. Gold, still range bound. We'll see what's going to happen there. Crude oil, leaning slightly more bullish, but not really anything worth trading. The indices nice and bullish. They do need some pullbacks there. We could see potential, for me, a potential trade idea on the Seng, which looks really good. First time I've ever really kind of spoken about that. We've got individual equities, some of them looking really good, some looking not as strong. Then we've got bonds just doing their thing. US bonds looking a little bit stronger there as well. And then cryptos actually having had a good week. Will they break the high and continue high this week? There's a fair chance that they will. And so, yeah, overall, some good trading opportunities. As I said, the Swissy pairs are looking nice and bullish. GBP is very strong. And this week, I'll be looking out for the interest rate, central bank interest rates coming out of ECB, and looking at UK CPI data as well to see how the markets respond to those. That's it. So I look forward to seeing you next week. And I'm also very much sort of a little bit more active on investing.com at the moment, writing a lot of content for them as well, and focusing a little bit more on UK markets just because I can. And so enjoying that. As you know, I predominantly work on the US markets, but I also want to start widening that and looking at UK markets as well. So that's it. Have a fantastic week. As always, it's a pleasure. And thank you very much for your support. It's always appreciated. If you like my stuff, please subscribe and give it a like. It's just nice to get that stuff boosted. Thank you.